Hello everybody, Tall Paul here, and today I got the new monster manual, and I want to go over 5 monsters that I'm excited to use in my games of Dungeons & Dragons. Let's get right into it. Coming in at CR3, the Flaming Skeleton is something that I'm very excited about. I actually got to use the Flaming Skeleton in my game on Tuesday night. I used 2 of these with a smattering of other skeletons to challenge my party of 4th level adventurers in a combat. Coming in with a Flame Scepter and a Hurl Flame attack, both of them with +4 to hit, hitting with a little bit of bludgeoning and a little bit of fire for the Flame Scepter, and then straight fire damage for the Hurl Flame. These provided a challenge for my players. The Death Burst surprised them because they hadn't experienced these Flaming Skeletons before in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, as they are new or renew for the 2024 rules. They were present in 4th edition. These Flaming Skeletons worked great as a ranged kind of tankier option to a lot of the skeletons we have seen in earlier 2014 editions of Dungeons & Dragons. With 65 hit points, they were definitely not pushovers and went toe-to-toe with a Paladin and a Barbarian at level 4 with no problems. One way I am really excited to use Flaming Skeletons is kind of little minions for a larger either spellcasting boss or a big beefy tanky boss who goes in, fights toe-to-toe with the players, and then the Flaming Skeletons throw some Hurl Flame at the players, causing a little bit of fire damage. I think this is a really great monster and something that I'm really looking forward to using in my games. Next up, we have a monster that was in the 2014 rule set, the Beholder. There are some great changes to the Beholder. The AC and hit points were not changed from the 2014 edition, but the thing that was changed were a lot of the eye rays. A lot of the eye rays now cause damage both on a failure and a success, in addition to doing their other effect. So the Charmed Ray is going to do 3d8 psychic damage, and the character is charmed, doing half damage on a successful save. So there's a lot of very cool additional damage that the Beholder is going to be dishing out. Any DM knows that once you start rolling eye rays, you really don't know what you're going to get. And if the players are making their saves and the eye rays aren't doing damage, you really have a dud of an encounter on your hands. This way, you're doing a little bit of damage. There is a little bit of a threat at all times from these rays, whittling the players down over time if you're not dealing with the Beholder and whittling his hit points down. So if we take a look at the 2024 edition versus the 2014 Beholder, here we see that the armor class and hit points are identical. And then we see here, we'll just do one of the rays. We'll do Charm Ray. Target creature must succeed on a DC 16 Wisdom saving throw or be charmed by the Beholder for 1 hour or until the Beholder harms the creature. In the new one, Charm, Wisdom saving throw, DC 16 failure, psychic damage, and the target has the charmed condition for 1 hour or until it takes damage. Successful save, half damage only. So we're seeing that damage over what was presented to us in the 2014 version of the Beholder. Again, great monster, very iconic D&D monster, and I am really excited to see how the new one handles at the table. Next up, we have the dragons. It is a basic answer, I know, but dragons are cool, and facing them or running them in Dungeons & Dragons is a lot of fun. And these new dragons, at least on paper, look like they're going to be a lot of fun to run at the table. With the new encounter building rules and using something like this Ancient Silver Dragon, which is a CR 23, if you're throwing this against level 20 players, you get a lot more to throw at them than just an Ancient Silver Dragon. If you're looking to build a hard or deadly encounter, you can actually throw 2 or 3 adult dragons in there with the Ancient Dragon and a smattering of Wyrmlings. That is all built into having either 5 or 6 level 20 players at the table and you wanting to build an encounter that is going to push them towards deadly. In addition to that, there's a lot of cool things that have been added to this stat block. The legendary actions have been reworked. All of them will only take 1 action, but you might not be only able to use it once per turn. In addition to that, we have spellcasting, control weather, ice storm, teleport, and zone of truth. For this Ancient Silver Dragon, we also have some at-will spellcasting, detect magic, hold monster, ice knife, and shape change. In addition to that, we have our classic paralyzing breath, cold breath, and all of the attacks, which used to be bite, claws, tail, are all now in this rend attack, where it has been kind of averaged out. Now, the dragon can make 3 rend attacks. It can also replace 1 attack with the use of paralyzing breath or spellcasting ice knife, the level 2 version. Again, this is going to be a very dynamic monster to have at the table and is going to pose a lot of cool challenges for the player being able to use these different abilities in combat. Taking a look at the 2014 version, we do not see any spellcasting on here. We have our basic Bite, Claw, Tail. The Fightful Presence is something that we don't have on the new stat block. We have our breath weapons, which both recharge on a 5 or a 6, and we have the Cold Breath and the Paralyzing Breath. But the items that we don't have are those, the spellcasting that we have here, and the Paralyzing Breath can be used not on recharge. So that means it can use its Paralyzing Breath instead of an attack on every single turn. All right, let's go from a monster we had in 2014 to a brand new monster, the Haunting Revenant. This one's coming in at CR 10, so it is a little bit lower of a CR than our Ancient Silver Dragon, but this is basically a possessed house. It is a possessed structure of some sort. I like to think of this thing as possibly a ship or a large wagon, maybe even an airship or a train of some sort. If you're going into something like the Eberron Worlds, I think it is very cool. The stat block itself, I think, leaves a little something to be desired, but again, it's got a great slam attack, doing good damage, advantage if they have invited something into itself to be able to attack it. And then with that invitation, charisma saving throw, DC 17, each creature in a 60-foot cone. On a fail, the target is teleported inside the Revenant space and is swallowed. A swallowed creature has total cover against attacks and other effects outside the Revenant. And then again, when you come to that object slam, melee or ranged attack roll +9 with advantage if the target is in the Revenant space for 27 damage. Very, very cool. And I think this works great as a focal point in a really dynamic encounter. You have other things, you have other undead posing threats to the players, and then all of a sudden you have a house or 2 or a ship that is also starting to attack the players, teleporting them inside, giving them cover against something like a Lich's spellcasting and attacks, but at the same time posing its own individual threat. This monster, one, I just absolutely love undead as a monster choice in Dungeons and Dragons in general, but this really just kind of elevates the way my mind envisions some encounters, and bringing structures into attack my players with is just such a cool idea. And last up, we have the Elemental Cataclysm. Coming in at CR2, just like our dragon, this is the big bad of all elementals. Right off the bat, you have a ton of immunities to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and poison, thunder damage, and a bunch of different conditions. It has Earth Glide. It does double damage to structures. And then the pinnacle of its abilities, the Cataclysmic Event that recharges on a 4, 5, or 6, which is 50% of the time. You roll a d4 and you get one of these 4 very cool abilities. Clinging Flames, Dexterity saving throw 23, each creature in a 60-foot radius sphere centered at a point that they see within 150 feet, bunch of fire damage, and starts burning. Freezing Waves, another very high DC 23 saving throw, strength this time. Failure, bunch of bludgeoning, bunch of cold, and it is prone, and reduces the creature's speed to 0 possibly. Raging Storm, storm clouds fill a 60-foot radius sphere, again, blinded, deafened, dexterity saving throw, lightning and thunder damage. So cool. Swallowed Earth, another one, bludgeoning and acid damage. They have the prone condition and are buried under rubble. They have the restrained condition, total cover, and are suffocating. Each one of these is just cool, and I can imagine these different parts of this elemental cataclysm causing these effects. In addition to that, you have rumbling movement and eruption, making one elemental burst attack, which again, good range, 25 damage of the damage type that you choose, which is fantastic. The cataclysm moves its speed, fly speed, or swim speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Again, if something's within range of it, it goes into the prone condition. This is doing the math on this. I took a look at this again as one of those. If I'm going to use this high CR monster in this big end battle for level 20 players, if you have 6 level 20 players at your table, you can use 2 elemental cataclysms as well as 10 CR5 elementals. Now that is a combat that sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds difficult, it sounds dynamic, and it sounds like if I have a raging storm going off over here and then a swallowing earth going off over here, I have earth elementals, fire elementals, air elementals all on the field at the same time. These players are going to be getting battered around by these different elements and elemental conditions. In addition to that, they're going to have a chunk of hit points that they need to burn through to get through this encounter. Each elemental cataclysm is going to have 370 hit points. In addition to that, I think it's 115 or 110 per elemental. That is a lot of hit points to be able to chew through while dealing with these different abilities that these elemental cataclysms are going to be able to throw at your players. So that's it. That is 5 monsters in the new 2024 Monster Manual that I am excited to use at my table against my players. These are fun monsters, and a lot of these really kind of get my creative juices flowing to build encounters that are going to be challenging and fun at higher CRs. I noticed that a lot of these are higher CRs. We have a couple of 22s, we had a 10, a 13, and then one CR3. So I might do another one of those videos on some of the lower CR monsters that I'm excited to bring to the table, but with all of the additions that they made at higher CRs, I'm really excited to run higher level combat in D&D because I don't see it being as much of a slog or as boring as it was using the 2014 versions of some of these monsters. As we saw with the dragon, we now have things like spellcasting that we're able to add to the combat, paralyzing breath, which we're able to use more often. The silver dragon hit points went down because it can paralyze so much, I believe, and has some of these cool abilities, but other dragons, their ACs or hit points went up. So we have different challenges facing the players at higher CRs, which I think are going to make combats a lot more fun to both run and be a part of at the table. I want to thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.